Hello everyone, today we are breaking down Season 1, Episode 1, Countdown of the 3 Body Problem. But before that, remember to like the video, helps out the channel a lot, and subscribe, and yada yada yada, let's get to it. The first thing we see is a rally during the Cultural Revolution in 1966. The Cultural Revolution in China was basically a movement to preserve communism in China and purge any remnants of capitalism from it. These rallies were used to humiliate and break down enemies of the revolution through physical and verbal abuse, until they would confess to their crimes in front of the crowd, where they then could be rehabilitated from their counter-revolutionary thoughts. They bring out a physics professor as the next person to stand trial. His name is Yazitai. So I'm most likely going to mispronounce a few of these names, so forgive me. I will be going off how the audiobook pronounces them, so if you don't like the pronunciation, write audible. His daughter Ya Wenxia watches helplessly in the crowd. If she tried helping her father or speak up for him, she would have the same fate as him. Yazitai is on trial for teaching the theory of relativity, which was theorized by Albert Einstein, who moved to America in 1933 when the Nazi government came to power. With Albert being in America, which we know is capitalism, this is seen as a crime. Like I said, they are purging capitalist ideas from the country. So Einstein must be wrong because he is a capitalist. And this theory is just propaganda from the Americans. They bring Yazitai's wife on stage, who is also a physicist. She agrees with the revolutionists that her husband is wrong. She does not want to have the same fate as him, so she agrees with them, which Yazitai could do as well. But he is a man of principle. He will not change his beliefs to save himself. He even doubles down, saying the Big Bang Theory, which is introduced in the theory of relativity, is the most plausible explanation for the origin of the universe. This somewhat outrages the crowd. The girl youths on stage start beating him with belt buckles. Ya Wenxia watches in horror as her father is beaten to death on stage. After the crowd leaves, she stays behind holding the body in her arms. We are now in current times. We are at a crime scene. The investigators are named Collins and Clarence. We see a bunch of numbers on a wall written in blood. The numbers are counting down. We find out it was a suicide and the man was a physicist. He had no history of mental illness or had previously tried to commit suicide. Collins mentions that this is not the first suicide they have seen from a scientist, and not the first time they have ran into this countdown either. So what is causing this is the question. On the wall we see "I still see it." Then we get a look at the body and his eyes are gouged out. So something drove this man to madness, something he was seeing. But what? We are now at the particle accelerator at Oxford University. We are there with Saul and Vera. They are having a conversation about how their project was shut down and how the physics of the past 60 years is wrong. So something has happened recently that has basically disproven everything they have worked on, which has caused the shutdown of their project. But it goes further than that. He says science is broken, so the data the scientific community has gathered over the last 60 years has been fairly consistent, allowing them to create theories and have general rules for physics. But now everything has changed. The data is sporadic. There's no consistency anymore. So basically everything they were told and taught about physics is wrong, or something is messing with the results. Vera leaves Saul and then dives into a pool of water, committing suicide, another physicist killing themselves. We are now at a bar with Augie and Jin. A bloke tries rizzing them up and we find out what they do. So Augie designs self-assembling synthetic polymer nanofibers. She even started a company that manufactures them. And Jin is a senior researcher in the theoretical physics group. So yeah, both are pretty smart. The dude walks away, too much brain for him. Jin goes into why the science community is freaking out. She says that the major accelerators start generating results that don't make any sense. She has gone through the code line by line and there are no issues. They have checked the hardware and once again, no issues. This should be impossible, but somehow it is happening. These experiments teach us how the universe works. So with these weird results, everything they thought they knew was wrong, or something else is happening. Saul gives Augie a call. She ignores him since he ignored her. The two are in a relationship, but they have hit somewhat of a rough patch. Saul calls Jin then, and she picks up. While Jin is on the phone, Augie starts seeing something, like electricity lines in the air. It appears as nothing right away, but then becomes a countdown. She asks the dude who was trying to raise her up earlier if he can see it. He cannot. So this is what the man who committed suicide saw as well. He ripped his own eyes out and could still see the countdown. It drove him mad. And now she is facing the same prospect. But why is this happening? And why is it only happening to people who work in the scientific fields? Jin comes back and lets Augie know that Vera killed herself. We are back with the investigators. He crosses Vera off his board. He's trying to figure out why this is happening. Why are these people doing this? We then see Augie, Jin, Saul, and Vera all went to school together and all work in the scientific field. Clarence will be watching them closely to see if they start acting strange. Because if one does start acting weird, he can stop them from dying, like the rest, but he can also get some of his questions answered, like what the countdown means and the significance of it. We're now at the funeral for Vera. We meet Jack and Will, who were also part of that college buddy group. Jack dropped out of Oxford though, and he created a business, Jack's Snacks, which is worth $90 million. Will did finish school and is a physicist and teaches at a university. We find out that Will and Jin used to date, and it seems like it did not end well, from the way Will and Jack speak about it. Jack mentions how Jin has a new boyfriend as well. We're now with Jin and her new boyfriend, and well, he's part of the military. His name is Raj. Saul meets them outside where they are having the funeral service for Vera. Jin has to tie his tie for him, and she jests that the winner of the Apker Award can't tie a tie. The Apker Award recognizes outstanding achievements in physics by undergraduate students. This kind of just illustrates that Saul is really smart. We're now with Augie, who is running a little late. She's on the train and she is freaking out about the countdown she is seeing. She sees it when she closes her eyes and it never leaves her field of view. Always right in the middle. It is counting down, but what happens when it reaches 0? She is terrified to find out. We're back at the funeral service where Jin tells Vera's mother how she is sorry for her loss. Jack and Will are sitting on one side of the aisle while the others are sitting on the other side. Jin waves to Jack, Jack waves back, Will tries to wave to her, but she turns her head before she sees it. So whatever happened between these two must have been quite messy. Augie comes in, Jin and her talk. We find out that Augie went to see a doctor to see why this countdown is happening, and they were of no help. They probably think she's crazy or super stressed. Clarence is outside the funeral service and takes some pictures when it is over the people who were there. He sees an older man get into a vehicle. By his facial expression, he must be a big deal. And Clarence follows his vehicle. We see the old man get into his helicopter. This man is Mike Evans. He is the owner of Evans Energy, a company worth billions. Why was he at the funeral for Vera? That is what Clarence wants to know. We're back with the college friend group. They're at a bar reminiscing, talking about Vera and whatnot. Jin is questioning Saul if Vera was acting strange or not. She never left a note or anything. It is human nature to want to know why. Saul was a research assistant and worked very closely with her, so he would know. He really didn't have an answer though. Other than that, they shut down her project, which was very important to her, and it bummed her out. They shut it down because, as I've stated before, the accelerator kept giving results that didn't make sense. Augie is staring off into space, still distracted by the countdown she is seeing. Jack tries to bring her into the conversation by asking what she's going to name her company. She says Nanotechnology Research Center. Jack thinks that is quite the boring name. Jack pries a bit more and figures out that her and Saul are going through a rough patch and makes jest of it. Augie didn't seem to like that though and threatened him with violence. Augie decides to go have a cigarette by herself, just freaking out about the countdown. A woman sits down next to her and lights her cigarette. She starts talking about the stars and whatnot. Augie just wants to be left alone but doesn't want to be rude either. The woman seems like she's trying to sell Augie a religion at first, saying, I know what you're going through, but it's not hopeless, that the Lord has a better way. Augie does not want to hear this at all and tells her she isn't interested. The woman then asks how far the countdown has gone to. Augie is shocked to hear this. Only Jin knows about it. How does this stranger know? The woman tells her that it is easy to make the countdown stop. She just has to put an end to her work. No more nanofibers, shut down the lab, and the countdown will disappear. Augie wants to know who she is. The woman then tells her that tomorrow at midnight go outside and look at the stars. She then leaves a toy from a cereal box to crack codes. And then tells Augie you do not want the countdown to get to 0. Nothing good happens at 0. and walks off. So clearly whatever is happening to Augie is by design. Someone is doing this to her, and it has to do with nanotechnology. They want her to stop her research with it. But the question is why? Why do they want her to stop? Also, how are they doing this with the countdown? The woman said something about a lord. Is it a godlike being doing this, or something else? We're going back in time. It is 1967. We are with Wenxia. She is working for a logging company. A man from the news comes up to Wenxia and starts talking to her. Wenxia just wants to be left alone. Ever since her father died, she really hasn't been the same. She's not trusting of anyone, especially strangers. The man talks about the destruction of the planet, and if they continue down this road of deforestation and polluting, the world would be poisoned. He gives her a book from the West called Silent Spring, which talks about this very subject. This book is also in English. He tells her to keep it for now and make sure no one sees it. So the reason he has it is because he is part of the news and they are allowed to get material from the West for research. But if a regular Joe has it, it's a big no-no. As I have previously stated, at this time China was ridding their country of all capitalist ideas, and with this book being written by an American, it is looked at as American propaganda. Wenxia reads it at night under her covers. As days passed, she and the reporter grew closer. She felt like there was someone she could trust in this world again. They even began to have a relationship. Well, they at least kissed. Don't know if they banged though. Wenxia was happy. She returned to her bed to grab the book and noticed it was gone. She's about to leave the tent when she is met by Commander Song. And the reporter who she trusted comes in behind him. The commander has the book and asks who gave it to her. She does not rat on the reporter. The commander sends her to division headquarters. We find Wenxia in a very damp and cold room. Her stove is out and she is shivering. A woman from the People's Court is speaking with her. We find out that Wenxia was her father's star pupil and is quite the scholar herself, so like her father, she is a physicist. They don't want to waste a talent like hers, said the lady. She tells Wenxia all she has to do is sign a paper, take a political class, and then she can rejoin the construction corps. Easy. Wenxia reads the paper they want her to sign. The paper is basically accusing her father of more treasonous acts. All she has to do is sign the paper saying they are true, that Zatai did these. If Wenxia does not, she will be prosecuted by the Military Control Commission. Wenxia, like her father, is someone of principle and will not sign the paper. This makes the lady a little mad. She grabs the bucket of water and pours it on Wenxia. Remember, the room is already freezing as it is. Wenxia expects this is how she's going to die. But that is not what fate has in store for her. She awakes in the back of a military vehicle, taking her to Radar Peak, known as Red Coast Base. The military tells her that they need her special talents, her knowledge, and that rather than rehabilitating herself in prison, do it here at the military base where she can do some good. We find out the research they are doing here is under the highest security classification, so this is quite a big deal. The only stipulation is that she will never be allowed to leave the base. Wenxia agrees to the terms and enters the base. We're back in current times, at the headquarters of the Strategic Intelligence Agency in London, and we find out that this is who Clarence works for. So this isn't just being investigated by regular detectives, they got the big boys on the case. Clarence is looking at his evidence board, trying to piece it together. He's doing surveillance on the Oxford Five, as he calls it. The Oxford Five are the college friends of Vera. While looking at the board, we find out that Vera's mother is Wenxia, the young woman we see in the flashbacks. So she was able to get out of the base after all. Is there any significance to that though, is the question. There are 3 other evidence boards filled with other victims. One has a picture of a guy wearing a shiny helmet. Clarence's superior wants to know if they have gotten their hands on one yet. They have not. So they believe this helmet plays a role in all of this as well. We're with Jin and she is visiting Vera's mother, Wenxia. Jin is still trying to figure out why Vera did it. She just wants some closure. She asks Wenxia if she had been acting strange recently. Wenxia said she was playing a video game and she played it a lot. Jin looks shocked by this. Wenxia goes and gets it and pulls out a shiny helmet. The same style helmet we saw Clarence looking at on his evidence board. It turns out it is a VR headset. Jin asks if she can have it, and Wenxia says she can. So what does a VR headset and a countdown have to do with these suicides? Is it a coincidence, or are they linked? Are the particle accelerators not working linked as well? If this Lord person that the lady was talking about can make people see a countdown, could they also mess with the results of an accelerator? There are a lot of questions that need answers. We are back in 1967. We get to see the radar test. It moves into position and they transmit something. It causes a bunch of birds in the forest below to start flying towards the radar, but as they get closer, they all die. We are back with Jin and she puts on the VR headset. It transports her to a desert landscape. She is amazed at how realistic it feels. She sees a pyramid in the background. She sees a sun start to rise and it becomes blazing hot. She then sees an almost mummified corpse open its eyes. She freaks out and takes the headset off. She's quite confused by this. It felt so real. She didn't know technology like this existed. We're back with the investigators. Clarence still wants to get one of those VR headsets. He believes Mike Evans is involved with it since it looks expensive. He would be one of the few people who have the resources to make said technology. We are back with Augie and Saul. They are going to look at the sky at midnight like the woman told her to do. It hits midnight and the stars in the night sky start to brighten and they start flickering. Saul and Augie have no idea what is happening right now. This should be impossible. Saul realizes that it is Morse code and he pulls out the code cracker that the strange woman gave to Augie. Saul starts reading the code out loud. It corresponds to the countdown Augie sees. So this Lord, as the woman calls it, is flexing their power. Like, I can do this, think of what else I can do. Which I'm sure terrifies Augie. She'll probably put a hold on her research because of this. We're back in 1967, and they're going to tell Wenxia the true purpose of Red Coast Base. That the purpose of it is to communicate with other beings not from this world. So it seems that the Red Coast Base was successful in their communication, assuming that this Lord figure is the same as the other life they contacted. But this leads to more questions. Why do they want Augie to stop her research? Why are they targeting scientists and messing with science on Earth? What does the VR headset have to do with it? These questions and more will be answered throughout the season. And that is the end of episode 1 of the 3 Body Problem. What did you think of it? Leave it down in the comments below. And if you want more 3 Body Problem content, please subscribe and like the video. Check out the Twitter link in the description below. And as always, have an awesome day.